Welcome back to Banging the Can, the Houston sports show that does not apologize for championship rings and tings, presented by Bolen Media, with new episodes dropping every Monday and Friday. I am Ross Bolen, and holy hell, we are really going through it right now as Houston sports fans. Really going through it, as if the Astros getting swept by the Mariners and the Texans falling to 0-3 over the weekend wasn't enough. On Monday, it was announced that Houston Rockets starting point guard Fred VanVleet tore his right ACL at minicamp in the Bahamas. In the Bahamas, man. In the Bahamas. I didn't even know anything bad could happen in the Bahamas. Fuck my ass. If you recall, in June, the Rockets and FVV agreed to a 2-year, $50 million extension, so losing him to ACL surgery due to an injury sustained at minicamp in the Bahamas is pretty devastating. The only upside is that with a month before the season starts, the Rockets have some time to restructure their offensive strategy around the massive hole Fred leaves behind. So is it time to find out what Reed Sheppard is made of? Sheppard was the number 3 overall pick in the 2024 draft, but hasn't really played enough at the NBA level to really give us a feeling for where his ceiling is. Clearly, the Rockets intended on allowing Reed Sheppard to develop as the backup point guard behind Fred VanVleet for at least another season or two, but that timeline just got nuked into oblivion. So, will Reed Sheppard be thrust into the spotlight as the starting point guard when the Rockets start their season on October 21st? The Rockets have other options as well. Ime Udoka could opt for Amen Thompson to run point or roll out like a hybrid situation with Aaron Holiday eating minutes too. We're just going to have to wait and see. Nobody really knows exactly how the Rockets, their front office, and Ime Udoka are going to decide to handle this devastating loss. But this sucks. There's no way around it. Losing Fred VanVleet is arguably a devastating blow to the Rockets' chances of contending for a title, with a lot of sports books taking their championship odds from what was plus 700 behind only the Oklahoma City Thunder to now 14-1 behind teams like the Cavs and the Nuggets. But here's my take, okay? This is my take. It's Reed Sheppard sink or swim time. He's 21 years old. He's probably the best pure shooter on the team, not counting Kevin Durant, obviously. He's shown flashes with the garbage minutes he's gotten, and I think you could put a dent in the 21-year-old's confidence if you opt to go another route. I also don't think that this injury to FVV is necessarily as devastating as it seems, and admittedly, it seems pretty fucking devastating. Like, my reaction to this when the news was announced was like, you've got to be kidding me. How is it that the injury bug bit the Astros all season long? The Texans have started 0-3, and now the Rockets lose their starting point guard before the season even begins. Like, it feels really shitty. But as good as Fred is, as a leader and a floor general, he went through stretches last regular season where he couldn't shoot for shit. He was abysmal offensively, okay? That being said, he went back to absolutely thriving in the playoffs and was a huge part of why we were able to take the Warriors to a Game 7. Defensively, I think Fred had a big advantage over Reed Sheppard as well, which hurts for sure. Obviously, the Rockets have established a defensive identity under head coach Ime Udoka that Fred VanVleet fit into perfectly, whereas Reed Sheppard can't really guard his way out of a paper bag at this point, or at least that's how it has seemed. But the way I see it, like, if Reed Sheppard starts at point guard, the Rockets can still have Kevin Durant and Amen Thompson bring the ball up the floor on occasion to take some of the pressure off. And certainly during crunch time, that can be the case. And they've got options here. And just for the record, none of those options involve signing Russell Westbrook, if you're one of the lunatics who suggested that. So please stop. It's my understanding that the Rockets' salary cap situation dictates that they don't even have enough money to offer someone like Russ the veteran's minimum. Anyway, most of the people I consider to be reliable inside sources for the Rockets seem to think it's pretty unlikely Reed Sheppard gets the starting job at point guard, that him being a defensive liability makes it more likely that they go like Dorian Finney-Smith or Aaron Holiday in there, something like that, keeping Reed as the backup. To me, though, if you thought highly enough of Reed Sheppard to draft him number 3 overall, and you're put in this situation where suddenly you need a starting point guard, and you don't trust your backup point guard to make the leap, like, I don't know. That seems like an indictment of Reed Sheppard at that point. Like, is this a situation where there's eventually a trade to fill the hole left by Fred? Maybe. I don't know. All I know is that to me, I'd rather put Reed Sheppard, the sharpshooter, in at point guard, let Kade or Amen or whoever bring the ball up in crunch time, and at least see what Reed Sheppard has got in the tank for like a month to start the season or something. We'll see what happens, but Fred VanVleet will be missed. I'm hoping he'll at least be on the bench this season to help coach these young Bucks up. Less than a month now until the NBA season begins, but that my opinion on the situation is that Reed Sheppard should be given a chance. Now, admittedly, I am not seeing what's going on behind closed doors. I don't know what Reed looks like at minicamp in the Bahamas. I don't know what the coaches and the training staff and the front office in general have seen in Reed Sheppard through his first full season with the team and in this offseason, whether or not he's progressed. I don't know. But you drafted the kid number 3. Your starting point guard, your veteran starting point guard, your championship caliber veteran starting point guard is gone. Likely for the entire season. A devastating blow. But you picked up Kevin Durant. You know this team is very, very solid defensively. Even though you lost Dillon Brooks in the offseason, you've got a very solid defensive team. You added Kevin Durant, who's got a lot of length and is no slouch defensively either. I just feel like let's just do it. Let's just put Reed in there and see what happens, man. Like, surely he's capable of running the offense on some level. There's like these guys have experience together at this point. Like, I feel like there's got to be a trust that's been established, and now you bring in a veteran champion and Kevin Durant. Like, let's just see. Let's just see what happens. He's a shooter. We know he can score. Do we really expect the point guard on the Rockets to be a guy that's like eating a bunch of clock dribbling? No, I don't think so. You bring the ball up the floor, you get it out of your hands and into Kevin Durant's or Amen Thompson's or Alperen Şengün's, and that's your job. So, like, I don't see it as that complicated unless he has serious issues ball handling or he is literally incapable of guarding anyone still, which maybe is the case. I don't see why you don't give him a chance. But we'll have to wait and see what Ime Udoka and Raphael Stone decide on as far as strategy goes, filling the hole left by FVV. It's going to be interesting. Can't wait for basketball season, though. Very excited to see Kevin Durant in a Rockets jersey. We got our first images of him in a Rockets jersey, or in Rockets apparel, I should say, over the last couple of days on social media. It's been very cool. It's kind of surreal. Less than a month now. Less than a month until Houston Rockets basketball kicks off on NBA opening day against the Oklahoma City Thunder. In 0-3 Texans news... I'm sorry, I shouldn't introduce the team that way. But in 0-3 Texans news, on Tuesday it was announced that they released safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Now, you may recall that the Texans traded Kenyon Green to the Eagles for C.J. G.J. in March. Well, he's gone already. In 3 starts, he had 15 tackles, 0 interceptions, 0 pass breakups, and apparently fucked up 3 separate big plays in the 3 games we have played so far. Plus, he was allegedly an issue in the locker room. Not great. Not great. Now, for what it's worth, the Eagles have already waived Kenyon Green as well, so it's not like we got, our asses handed to us in a trade or something. But yeah, the Texans paid Gardner-Johnson $7.3 million for 3 games of service, according to ESPN's Bill Barnwell. $7.3 milli for 3 games of service that were apparently shitty enough, combined with his presence in the locker room and his frustration with not blitzing enough, to cut him altogether. So he's just gone. Not really what you wanted to see during the week as the big news for the Texans following a devastating loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars to put them at 0-3. But here we are. And speaking of where we are, the Texans are now the only team in the past 20 NFL seasons to allow fewer than 55 points combined in its first 3 games, but still finish those games with an 0-3 record. The first team in 20 seasons. To me, that's like saying that in 20 seasons, no team has had as competent of a defense while also having as incompetent of an offense as the Texans have. And the more I've thought about the Texans this week and looked at our first 3 games, the more I'm okay with our situation on defense and D'Amico's ability to lead the defense, which inversely has made me even more disgusted by the offensive production and what Nick Caley has accomplished through 3 games as a first-time offensive coordinator. The offense is the big problem. I feel like in my Monday episode this week, I was a little bit too reactive. And I kind of evenly placed the blame all over the place, offense, defense. Having reconsidered it some, that was not fair. The problem is the offense. The defense is not the problem. The defense is fine, if not good. The offense is dog shit, if not terrible. And Nick Caley has been an absolute disaster so far as offensive coordinator. CJ Stroud looks lifeless, as I said on Monday. The situation on offense is extremely dire. And the Texans play the Titans on Sunday in NRG Stadium at noon and are currently 7-point favorites to win that game. But if for some reason they don't, we are suddenly looking at a very real possibility that this team is 0-5 at the bye, which would be disastrous because we play the Ravens week 5. We have our bye week 6. If we can't beat the Titans, we know we're not beating the Ravens at that point. That's an 0-5 at the bye week situation. And I would not recommend for any Texans fans to look at the schedule for the remainder of the year, by the way, because it is no longer difficult to see this Texans team going like 6-11 or 4-13 or 5-12, like somewhere in there, which is, it's obviously not what you want at all.
Shit, them boys is having the time of their lives.
So that's where we are. That's where we are with Texans football right now. A potential 1-4 or 0-5 start going into the bye. And for all I said on Monday and the possibility of D'Amico or Nick Caserio being on the hot seat, I want to kind of back it up, okay? I don't necessarily think D'Amico would be on the hot seat mid-season. I don't necessarily think Nick Caserio would either. I do think if this year goes the way it currently looks like it's going to go, if this season goes the way it looks like it's going to go, with us finishing something like 6-11 or 4-13 or 5-12, then Nick Caserio is probably going to get canned at that point. I would say Nick Caley probably also gets canned at that point. Because look, if the trend continues, it looks like that was an absolute terrible hire, which it seems like falls more on D'Amico Ryans than I realized. Like, I was under the impression that Nick Caserio, as the general manager, had a heavier hand in saying who was going to be the offensive coordinator. It seems like that's actually more the head coach than it is the GM. I thought it was more of a combination of their opinions, and it seems like the head coach is actually the one who calls that shot. So have to put a lot of the blame regarding Nick Caley so far and the offensive struggles on D'Amico Ryans as well. But still, it's difficult to imagine a situation where the defensive-minded head coach you hired with the idea that he could establish a strong defensive identity within the team gets fired when he, in fact, did accomplish that. Like, he has accomplished that. We're 2 full seasons of solid defense, now a third with at least solid defense through 3 games, where the offense is the problem. And again, it takes me back to the question of why the Texans didn't opt to hire a former head coach in the NFL as an offensive coordinator, somebody who has the chops to not only make sure the offense is run efficiently and productively, but also contribute to D'Amico Ryans' growth as a first-time head coach himself. I just don't get it. I don't get why we went with this Nick Caley Patriots coaching tree bullshit, that, Patriots South strategy that the Texans have seemingly been chasing since the start of this new era in Texans football. It makes absolutely no sense to me. It's infuriating to think about. But at the end of the day, it does feel less likely than I felt it did on Monday that the Texans start cleaning house at the bye week mid-season. I just don't see that many names out there who are available to immediately bring in and remedy the situation. So it's almost like you'd rather just roll through, see if these guys can make some changes and actually get some momentum before you go and start firing a bunch of people. That being said, the 0-3 start and the fashion in which these games have unfolded has completely shaken my confidence in everything about the Texans. I never had any confidence in Nick Caley because I didn't know the guy. Now, it would take a few weeks of scoring at least 30 points a game to get me to have confidence in him, given what we've seen so far. I have definitely lost my confidence in general manager Nick Caserio, considering the way this offseason unfolded, the C.J. Gardner-Johnson situation, the total and utter lack of positive momentum in terms of building an offensive line for now our third year. Starting quarterback, C.J. Stroud. This is a mess, man. This is a really big mess that the Texans currently have on their hands. And I don't know how they clean it up or what it's going to look like, but I know that when I started, and I spent about 30 seconds going through the schedule for the rest of the season earlier this morning, and when I did that, my morale plummeted. Because it is not difficult to see this being one of the most disappointing seasons in franchise history, given the strength of schedule. This is the downside of winning your division. You get a first-place schedule. You're going to have a more difficult schedule. So if you go from one season where you're a playoff competitor and it looks like you're on the cusp of potentially building something that could be a Super Bowl contender or at the very least make an appearance in the conference championship, and then you fall off in an offseason, you're still going to have that first-place schedule that really shines a light on your inefficiencies and on the bad parts of your team. And that is what is happening now with this Houston Texans team. So, best case scenario is they beat the brakes off the Titans on Sunday, really come out and make a statement about where they want to go the rest of their season. They're competitive at least against the Ravens in week 5. And then they go into the bye week and have an opportunity to make some offensive adjustments and continue to move things in the right direction for the rest of the season with the 12 games we will have remaining at that point. So that's what to hope for if you love the team and you want to see them do well, like I think we all do. In Astros news, God, do we have to? We do. They lost to the Oakland Athletics 5-1 on Tuesday in Game 1, then lost 6-0 on Wednesday, completely shut out, which really fucked up their chances of making the postseason even more, before finally deciding to show up and score runs in an 11-5 win yesterday afternoon, I should say, to close out that series against the A's. So their chances of continuing their streak of postseason appearances, which currently stands at 8 consecutive seasons, are currently on life support. We've got 3 games left against the Angels in Los Angeles, and at the very least, we have to win 2 of the 3 games, but even then, we need help from the Red Sox or Tigers or Guardians to be able to make the postseason. There are basically 5 different scenarios where the Stros can still make the wild card. Remember, the division race is over. The Mariners clinched the AL West. We have lost the division, okay? It's the first time we have lost the division in a full season since 2017, all right? So we still have a chance to make the wild card, still get into the postseason. 3 of those 5 different scenarios that would make us a wild card team involve the Astros winning out and sweeping the Angels, or... That's 3 of the scenarios. 3 scenarios involve the Astros winning all 3 games against the Angels, and we need to see bad things happen with the Tigers or the Red Sox or whatever, or the Guardians. Now, outside of those 3 scenarios, we could win 2 of the 3 games against the Angels, and the Guardians would need to lose all 3 of their final games, which is not happening and not something we should count on. Or the Astros can win 2 of 3 against the Angels, and the Tigers can lose all 3 of their final 3 games, which is also not happening, but is slightly more likely than the Guardians getting swept out. It's all very confusing and complicated, and could have absolutely been avoided if they weren't so ass offensively all summer. It is a sad state of affairs. In what was possibly Framber Valdez's last start in an Astros uniform on Thursday, to be clear, that was Framber's last start ever in an Astros uniform if we don't make the postseason. He's gone this offseason. He's going to be a free agent. We know we're not re-signing him. It would shock the world if we did. So this was possibly his last start on Thursday, and he went back to being the ace that we missed all summer long. 7 innings pitched, 10 strikeouts, 1 earned run, locked in with a total lack of hair extensions. And Good Framber is still so much fun to watch. It's such a bummer that we didn't really get to see more of him, Good Framber, this season since he's hitting free agency afterward. But man, what a frustrating guy to pull for. Even as he was doing well during this game, I couldn't make myself be happy for him. He probably saved himself maybe $10, $15, $20 million in future contract earnings by having as good of a final appearance as he did in this regular season because he struggled all summer long. And the struggles were the worst kind of struggles where you felt like he wasn't locked in. He was not focused on the task at hand. He was messing with his hair a lot, which I had noted on the show, having to take his hat off a lot while he was out there on the bump and fuck with his hair. So I found it really interesting that he took the extensions out, got rid of all the hair, and came out for the final start like it was time to get serious when it would have been an appropriate time to do that, Framber? 3 fucking months ago, when you started to fall off. That's when you should have done it, right then. Or at least 2 months ago, when it was really clear you were going through some serious shit, and we really needed you the most. That's when you should have done it. So it's frustrating to see that it's like too little too late from Framber Valdez. Really a bummer. It was also announced during this god-awful cursed week from hell that Luis Garcia will once again be put under the knife for some kind of secret, non-specific surgery that I assume involves his elbow, and that he is expected to miss the entirety of next season. Unbelievably shitty. I feel so bad for Luis Garcia. That was 2023 when he had his Tommy John. Missed the rest of the remainder of that season, missed all of 2024, misses the bulk majority of 2025, comes back, gets 2 starts in at the major league level after multiple setbacks in the minors during his rehab, and then he's back under the knife again. It sucks. Now, from a personal place, like Luis Garcia is filthy fucking rich and made millions and millions of dollars in his career, so I think he'll be okay. But from a competitive standpoint, from a sports fan standpoint, you hate to see somebody go through that much hard work, get back, and just never be able to, and just get hurt immediately again. And we've had kind of a lot of this going on within this Astros organization. It's impossible to talk about like Luis Garcia's situation and not talk about Lance McCullers Jr.'s situation, which unfolded eerily similarly. So, yeah, Jim and Dana should probably evaluate the entire medical and training staff over the offseason because it's either that they're incompetent or we are cursed as a franchise. And either way, something has to change. Something has to change. So, is the golden era of Astros baseball finally over? Is what I have called and I believe was a dynasty run finally done? I'm going to tell you a sad story. Yesterday morning, so after we had lost the first 2 games to the Athletics, which was obviously extremely devastating to our chances of making the postseason, and just overall sad. The A's suck. Watching the Astros play the A's at wherever the A's are located at this point sucks. It's a minor league stadium. There's 300 people there. There's no bleachers in the outfield. There's ridiculously blinding stadium-style lights that the players lose the ball in constantly. It's embarrassing. It's depressing. And we'd lost those first 2 games. And I have a 2-year-old son who's really into the Astros and baseball in large part because he sees me spending so much time watching them and wearing Astros hats. He can identify the logo, obviously, at this point. I've got a ton of merch that I wear really regularly. He can say Astros. He doesn't know any of the players. He doesn't really know what's happening because he's 2, right? He just knows he wants a baseball bat and he wants to hit shit with it and he likes throwing the ball and he's got a cannon for an arm. But the point is, yesterday morning, after 2 of the most difficult to watch losses of the Astros' very disappointing season, my son, for the first time ever, picked out an orange Jose Altuve jersey to wear to school. He's never done this before. He's never worn this jersey. It's something we got as a hand-me-down from a family friend whose son is older now and the jersey no longer fits him. So they figured, we'll give it to Ross and to his kids. And he picked it out for the first time ever to wear to school yesterday because he's got no clue what's going on. And I envied him in that moment because he has no idea how bad it's gotten for this team and how hard this season has been. How depleting and depressing and sad this entire story, the way it's coming to an end. And he picked out his Altuve jersey and he wore that to school. And on one hand, it made me proud. And on the other, it just made me even more sad for the state of things in terms of the Astros franchise. To make matters worse, this morning, he goes into his dirty clothes hamper, pulls the jersey out, and demands to wear it to school again. Now, that being said, he did wear it yesterday, and we did win yesterday. So maybe I have to keep my son wearing that jersey for the final 3 games to ensure that we at least have a shot at the postseason. But to answer the question about whether or not I think it's the end of the golden era of Astros baseball, I will wait to speak to this in more detail until the season is actually over or the Astros are eliminated from the postseason or they win another World Series, which we know I'm smoking something if I'm saying that. But I will just say this today. It's really possible. It's very likely, I think, at this point. That's just being brutally honest. With the way things sit and the way the injuries have piled up and looking at the offensive production this team was able to cobble together over the course of this season, it's really difficult to imagine things going up from here. You know, it's too many devastating injuries, too many bad contracts on the books. Like, we're still paying so much money to so many guys who are not contributing, whether it be Rafael Montero or Lance McCullers Jr., Luis Garcia now with that injury. Jose Abreu is still on the fucking payroll, man. Like, they made a lot of bad decisions from a managerial standpoint, okay? They've got a lot of dead money that's not doing shit for this team on the books. And I don't really know where to go from here. Because as I've said over and over, like, you look at the team on paper and the potential defense for next season on paper and batting lineup on paper, and you're like, this is solid. This isn't bad. I still don't know what to make of Christian Walker and what they're going to do with him at first base, you know, because you could put Paredes there and have Altuve at second and have Pena at shortstop and have Correa at third. And that's a pretty goddamn good infield with Jose Altuve, a repeat Golden Glover and future Hall of Famer, as the weak spot in your infield. But they've also got Ramon Urias they can run out there at second base, who's significantly better defensively than Altuve. And I don't know, maybe Walker at first, if you can fix him up during the postseason or during the offseason. If you can fix Christian Walker up and get him to a place that you're more comfortable with, maybe he can stay at first. Paredes goes to second, Pena at short, Correa at third. Like, we have outfielders. We've got some younger guys like Zach Cole that we've pulled out of, and Cam Smith that are rookies that we have some faith in, that we've seen what they're sort of capable of. Cam Smith has had a rough back half of the season. Zach Cole, nobody should have thought he was going to stay as hot as he was that first week. But, like, they've got talent. Jake Myers is a great center fielder. He's batting over 300 this season. Like, on paper, you got to believe in that lineup, right? Like, I think you do. But it just hasn't worked, you know? And especially with Yordan Alvarez being hurt the bulk majority of the season, Pena going down again this last several days with whatever he's got going on in his oblique. Like, these are your best players offensively that you've missed big stretches this season. And there's no argument to be made there. Like, Yordan Alvarez, Jeremy Pena, and Isaac Paredes are our best hitters consistently. And they've all missed big stretches. So it's really difficult to tell if, like, the Astros have fallen off and the golden era is over, or this was just the most cursed season in franchise history. They sustained more injuries than they ever have in the history of the Houston Astros. They put more people on the IL, more IL stints than any team in the history of Major League Baseball. So I don't know if you can just say it's over. It doesn't feel fair So I still feel like for Astros fans looking for a silver lining or some type of positivity for the future, I still think that's there. I still don't know what to make of the pitching. Framber's obviously going to be gone, and now you're at a place where you have one proven starter in Hunter Brown. And, I love Blue Balls number 69, but he hasn't proven anything yet in terms of longevity in a starting slot. I love Christian Javier, but he's been, mediocre, I'd say, overall, since he got back. He's not bad, and we know what he was capable of prior to his surgery, so maybe he gets back to that, but he hasn't had the time to yet, so he's just been solid. Arrighetti can't stop getting hurt. You're in a weird place in terms of your pitching rotation, so I'll save the bigger talk about the Astros and the potential end of the golden era for the offseason. But we need a miracle this last few days here. And we've seen them happen before. We weren't supposed to win the division a couple of years ago, and we fell ass backwards into it kind of 2 years in a row. And the Rangers still went on to win the World Series, and that was that. But, you never know. Baseball is weird as hell. It's possible we sweep the Angels and we get a little bit of luck and we somehow slither into a wild card spot. And then I still don't think a team wants to play us in a 3-game series because who knows? Maybe the Astros team that scores 11 fucking runs shows up instead of the one that drops a goose egg. You don't know. They don't know. Nobody knows. We'll just have to wait and see. But inarguably, this is one of the worst weeks in Houston sports that I can remember, in recent memory anyway. The combination of losing the division for the Astros and getting swept by the Mariners in what was a pivotal series, losing the first 2 games of the Athletics, the announcement of Luis Garcia being done for an extended period again, expected to miss all of next season, combined with the Texans being 0-3 and cutting C.J. Gardner-Johnson and having a ton of question marks across the board, combined with the announcement that Fred VanVleet tore his ACL in the Bahamas. It's the worst week I can remember. Really tough for all of us. So try to have some fun this weekend. Go out and do something that doesn't involve Houston sports for a bit. I'm not saying don't watch the Astros games. It's the last 3 games of what could be the end of an era. So you have to watch them and see what happens. But I'm also not saying you got to watch all 9 innings. If they start falling apart in the second, third, we're down 5-0, shit like that, get the fuck out of there. Hit the ejector button. Save yourself the suffering. I'm not saying don't watch the Texans-Titans game, but if it gets to the second quarter and we still haven't scored a point and we're down 14-0 or something, maybe save yourself the suffering and get the hell out of there. And then just try to remember, we're going to have fun this basketball season. It's going to be really fun to have Kevin Durant on our team. Given the current state of things, it's impossible not to imagine a scenario where Kade also gets hurt. And it's all just one giant shitstorm, and we watch our Houston sports golden age just swirl the toilet bowl until it's gone. I'm not under any illusions that that's not a possibility. I'm in the same mental headspace as a lot of y'all, where it's difficult not to think negatively at this point, to not be down. So I'm talking to myself here too. Try to enjoy yourself this weekend. Don't let it all be about the sad sports shit that has happened this week. And maybe, just maybe, some good stuff will happen. Maybe things will turn a corner and the Astros will win all 3 games. And you know what? If they win all 3 games and we still don't make the postseason, I'll at least feel good that they tried. That's what I want to see, and that's what made those losses against the Athletics on Tuesday and Wednesday so frustrating. It didn't seem like they gave a shit. And that's not what you want. I realize that participation trophy culture has probably become a bit too intense in this country, and that's not necessarily good for competitive edge. But I'll also say, I do stand by, if I see my team give their all and everyone try their best, it's hard to be mad after a loss or feel embarrassed. It's when you don't think everyone tried their best that you feel that shame and embarrassment after an L. So I just don't want to see that from the Texans or Astros anymore, please and thank you. That will do it for today's show. Remember, we have new episodes dropping every Monday and Friday on youtube.com/@bangingthecan. We are also on all the podcast platforms. You can actually watch our show on Spotify the same way you can on YouTube now. But if you choose audio over video on Spotify, That's your prerogative. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars. Write a few sentences in the form of a review about why you like our show. If you're on Spotify, throw us 5 stars. If you're watching on YouTube right now, I demand you hit the subscribe button, throw us a like, turn on notifications for our channel so you find out immediately every time we drop a new video, and leave a comment in today's comment section to let me know what you're thinking about the Astros or the Texans or the Rockets. Please share the most unapologetic Houston sports show in existence with your friends and family. Follow us on social media at Banging the Can on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Threads. I'm Ross Bolen. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Those are the 2 where I'm most active, at WR Bolen. I will be back Monday to discuss the results of the Texans-Titans matchup and Astros-Angels series. Until next time, H-Town, stay strong, stay down.